and then they're going to go off into their lesson when we kick into Revelations. All right, guys, welcome to the Shemini Atzeret service. You guys know what Shemini Atzeret is? It's the eighth day of Sukkot, right? And we get the word Shemini from the word Shemona, which means 8. So what we're going to do is, I want to talk to you a bit about what happened yesterday with Hoshana Rabbah, what we should be celebrating or what we should be focused on today. And then we're going to have a bit of a break on live stream. There's going to be some praise and worship. And then we're going to go back into Revelations. Okay? So, let's just go to Leviticus 23 quickly. And just remind ourselves again. I know this seems tedious, but it does help with the revision. All right, go to Leviticus 23, verse 39. And it's going to talk to us about the last cycle or the last feast within that 7th month cycles. But on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered the produce of your land, you are to observe the festival of Adonai 7 days. The first day is to be a complete rest, and the 8th day is to be the complete rest. And on the first day, you are to take choice fruit, palm fronds, and thick branches and river willows, and celebrate in the presence of Adonai your God for 7 days. You are to observe it as a feast to Adonai 7 days in the year. It is a permanent regulation, generation after generation. Keep it in the 7th month. Right, let's pause there. So he mentions the first day and he mentions the 8th day, but then he says celebrate for 7 days. But I thought the festival of Sukkot was over 8 days. So we're reminded that there seems to be a little bit of a separation, at least in thinking about what happens in the first 7 days, and then on the 8th day, something separate or something different happens. Okay, so we're going to obviously look at what happens going forward and what the Messiah is going to have for us. So we are going to just try and peel that a little bit today, peel that apart, unpack it a bit. All right. Verse 42. You are to live in Sukkot, tabernacles, temporary dwellings for 7 days. Every citizen of Israel is to live in a sukkah, so that generation after generation of you will know that I made the people of Israel live in a sukkot, when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Adonai your God. So the end of the cycle of feasts makes a statement. Why do we do this? Because he is our God. We belong to him and we're celebrating what he did for us. He freed us and he brought us out. Now, as we have mentioned before, when we see Messiah celebrating the feasts, he specifically points out a day, which is the 7th day of Sukkot, Tabernacles, and he does something quite interesting. I want you guys to open up to John 7 for me. John chapter 7. All right, so I'm going to read from verse 1 just to give you a bit of context. When we start getting to the point he wants to make, we'll start to unpack it. After this, Yeshua traveled around in the Galilee, intentionally avoiding Judah because the Judeans were out to kill him. But the festival of Sukkot in Judah was near. So his brothers said to him, leave here and go into Judah so that your Talmidim can see your miracles you do. For you know no one who wants to become known acts in secret if you're doing these things. Show yourself to the world. His brothers spoke this way because they had not yet put their trust in him. Isn't it an interesting dynamic that even though we had the prophecy about Christ when he was to come, what he was to fulfill, we knew that Miriam understood him, this was going to be the Son of God, that his other siblings misunderstood who he was. They didn't understand why he was there, and they didn't understand what he was about to do. So they're teasing him just like any sibling would, busy making fun, just poking around a little bit and saying, come on, big brother, you must go up, you must show your face. Why are you hiding away down here? Surely you mustn't be so scared of those pesky Judeans now. Yeshua said to them, my time has not yet come, but for you, any time is right. The world can't hate you, but it does hate me because I keep telling it how wicked its ways are. You go on up to the festival. For me, I am not going up to the festival now because the right time for me has not yet come. Having said this, he stayed on in the Galilee. But after his brothers had gone up to the festival, he too went up, not publicly, but in secret. At the festival, the Judeans were looking for him. Where is he, they asked, and among the crowds there was such a whispering about him. Some said, he's a good man, but others said, no, he's deceiving the masses. However, no one spoke about him openly for fear of the Judeans. There was a split in between the nations. Some people were for him and some people weren't. We have this understanding that Messiah was only accepted by a few, but the reality was it was probably a 50-50 split. Everybody was just too scared to say it because they would have been ostracized. Today in synagogues, if you're a part of an Orthodox synagogue and you say you become a believer in Christ, they ostracize you to the point where it is as if you were never born. When they see you in the street, they don't talk to you. You don't exist. It was similar back then. Can you imagine being in a small community where the people you grew up with, the people you identified with, these family members all of a sudden looked at you as if you were gone? When you believe and you stand up and you take that, you count the cost of everything. You're not doing this as a pleasing for anybody else. You're doing this because you need your salvation. You need Messiah. It is about you crying out to him so that he would save you. And that is a personal thing. That is about me and my relationship with God. And it's hard sometimes to take a stand, but you got to. Verse 14 says, not until the festival was half over did Yeshua go into the temple courts and begin to teach. The Judeans were surprised. How does this man know so much without having studied? What they're saying is like, which rabbi taught you? And we go, no, but Joseph was a builder. He wasn't trained by Gamliel, he wasn't trained by Hillel, he wasn't trained by Shammai, he wasn't trained by the sages. Where did this man get such insight? That should have already given you a clue. It's from God. So Yeshua gave them an answer. My teaching is not my own, it comes from the one who sent me. If anyone wants to do his will, he will know whether my teaching is from God or I speak on my own. The person who speaks on his own is trying to win praise for himself, but a person who tries to win praise for the one who sent him is honest. I think there's an important principle for us as believers that have to understand this. When we're busy talking to people, do we want to sound right? What is our motivation? Is it to get accolade for oneself? Or is it to win you for the kingdom of heaven? Am I there to help you understand God? Am I there to help you understand sin? Am I there to help you find Christ? You see, at the end of the day, it's not about any single one of us, it's about God. And that's what we need to take away. There is nothing false about him. Didn't Moshe give you the Torah? Yet not one of you obeys the Torah. Now that's a striking thing. You've built your entire life thinking that you're a pious person, that you have studied the Bible, and yet you do not do what the Bible tells you to do. What was the problem in Messiah's time? Not just head knowledge. Fences, okay? So it became down to man's interpretation, man's traditions, right? Messiah says to them, you nullify the law of God, the Torah of God, and you keep the traditions of men. What is our problem today? Same problem. No, the pastor said. No, the rabbi said. But what did God say? You see, we're very good at following people, and we assume because you have been standing there speaking for a really long time that you know what you're talking about. But people can get it wrong. Why do we read the text? Because I don't want you to remember what Vince said. I want you to remember what God said and do that. It's not about me. It's about you hearing what he said. Do not get to the point where we have the excuse of saying, oh no, we were just following man, to the point that we didn't know God anymore. The point of the Bible is to reveal God and understand him, his character, his love for us. That is what Torah is supposed to be there for. It's supposed to show us what's right and wrong, but it reveals who he is. So I say I keep it, but I don't. He asked him, why are you out to kill me? If your God is a God of life, then you should be a person of life. Yet these guys are plotting the death of an innocent man. You have a demon, the crowd answered. Who's out to kill you? Yeshua answered them, I did one thing, and because of this you're all amazed. Moses gave you circumcision, Brit Milah. Not that it came from Moses, but from the patriarchs. And you do a Brit Milah on Shabbat. The boy is circumcised on Sabbath, so that the Torah of Moshe will not be broken. Why are you angry with me? Because I made a man's whole body well on Shabbat. Stop judging by surface appearances and judge the right way. He says, you guys don't understand God, you don't understand his law, you don't understand his heart, you don't understand the point of why you're here. You are so busy focusing on self that you do not understand the heart of your King. Guys, you know the longest journey that we see a lot of people take is when knowledge goes from your mind into your heart. That can take years. You know a lot about him, but you haven't experienced him. You've thought about it for a really long time, but you've never done anything about it. It hasn't changed the way you are. The whole point of this knowledge is to change your heart, renew your mind, and make you something, someone, so much more than what you ever thought you could possibly be. Some of the Yerushalayim people said, isn't this a man they're out to kill? Yet here he is speaking openly, and they don't say anything to them? It couldn't be, could it, that the authorities have actually concluded that he's Messiah? What an interesting knife edge we have. If we don't condemn him, they're going to declare him Mashiach. If I do condemn him, I'm going to condemn an innocent man. Now all of a sudden political pressures and people pressures are going to start to define how I see things. He says, verse 27, surely not. We know where this man comes from, but when the Messiah comes, no one will know where he comes from. Is that biblically correct? No, the Bible clearly tells us where he's supposed to be born. The Magi who came from the east, or the wise men, if you want to use that term, they had an idea of where he was going to be. Did Herod not summon the other guys and say, where's the Messiah supposed to be? And did he get an answer? Yes or no? He did get an answer. So these people again do not know their Bible. Whereupon Yeshua, continuing to teach in the temple courts, cried out, indeed, you do know me, and you know where I'm from. And I have not come on my own. The one who sent me is real, but him you don't know. I do know him, because I am with him, and he sent me. How many times have you heard the word sent in the last couple of minutes? It's a continual thing of, this is my purpose and this is why I'm here. At this, they tried to arrest him, and no one laid a hand on him because his time had not yet come. However, many in the crowd put their trust in him. When the Messiah comes, will he do more miracles than this man has done? Say, guys, we said the Messiah was going to come and he was going to do miracle after miracle. He was going to do amazing things. And here this guy is doing it. It has to be him. The Pharisees heard the crowd whispering these things about Yeshua. So the head Kohanim and the Pharisees sent some of the temple guards to arrest him. Yeshua said, I will be with you only a little while longer. Then I will go away to the one who sent me. You will look for me and not find me. Indeed, where I am, you cannot come. The Judeans said to themselves, where is this man going that you won't find him? Does he intend to go out into the diaspora, out into the nations where the other Greek-speaking Jews are, and teach the Greek-speaking Jews? And when he says, you will look for me and not find me, indeed, where I am, you cannot come, what does he mean? Now, on the last day of the festival, Hoshana Rabbah, in verse 37, do you guys have a different translation there? The climax of the festival. Anybody else got a different translation? No? More or less the same. Of? gives you death. Especially if you get any of that stuff in your eyes. You don't want to play that game, all I'm saying. There is a point where God is going to bring resurrection, and that resurrection is going to bring life. Listen to verse 11. However, its mud flats and marshes will not become fresh, but will remain salty. On both riverbanks will grow all kinds of trees for food and leaves. Leaves will not dry up, nor will their fruit fail. There will be different kind of fruit each month, because the water that flows from the sanctuary, so that this fruit will be edible and the leaves will be for healing properties. So I don't know how many of you guys, I've seen a bit of a prophecy update from time to time, where people say Ezekiel's prophecy is now coming to fruition, where they find little pools next to the Dead Sea and they see little fishes in it. And then they go, Ezekiel 47, this is what it's about. If you read Ezekiel 47, it's exactly the opposite. The main body becomes life-giving. The little pools are the ones where things stay dead. Today in Israel, we're finding little pools of life, but the main body is still dead. Things still need to happen, still need to be put into shape. That water of resurrection has to come from God. That life-giving thing that we claim so much. And remember, John 7, when they're pouring out that jug at Hoshana Rabbah, pleading for God to bring life, praying for this living water, to bring this blessing, to bring about Ezekiel 47. It was at this point that Messiah decides to have a teaching moment. So at the climax of this festival that he was busy kind of hiding from, he says this, verse 37. So it was on the last day of the festival of Hoshana Rabbah, Yeshua stood and cried out, if anyone is thirsty, let him keep coming to me and drinking. Whoever puts his trust in me, as the scripture says, rivers of living water will flow from his innermost being. Now we said this about the Spirit, whom those who trusted in him were to receive later. The Spirit had not yet been given because Yeshua had not yet been glorified. If anyone is thirsty, you want resurrection? You want to go from dead to life? You want to see things being established? You want to see judgment removed from the earth? Believe in me. Drink from me, and I will flow through you. That ruach that is going to flow through you so that you will fill other people. Whoever drinks from this water, life will come. We had the privilege of baptizing a couple of people last weekend. I need them to know that those promises, that cool life-giving water, that Spirit that's inside of you will be life for other people if you let it flow. Hold on to that. On hearing his words, some people in the crowd said, surely this man is the prophet. Others said, this is the Messiah. Same statement, really. But others said, how can he be this Messiah come from the Galilee? How can he come from the Galilee? Doesn't the Tanakh say that the Messiah is from the seed of David and comes from Bethlehem? You know, a couple of verses ago, they said we wouldn't know where the Messiah comes from. And now other guys are saying, oh no, he comes from Bethlehem. It's amazing, the confusion. Doesn't the Tanakh say that, I read that part. So that the people were divided because of him. Some people wanted to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him. Messiah sits at this point, and this is the seventh day. This libation was poured out. These people are crying out for salvation, and a man called salvation stands up in their midst and he goes, I'm right here, guys. He stands in the temple where this water is supposed to flow, and he says, you were looking for a trickle of water, here I am. Some people will drink, some people won't. There is a promise of resurrection. There is a promise of life. Don't ever let that go. Now that's the seventh day. If it just stopped there, we would be happy. But no, God has always got little tidbits for us to chase down. So what is it about today? Shemini Atzeret, the eighth day, this holy convocation that we're supposed to be focusing on. We get together on the first day and we get together on the eighth day. So now what? What are we supposed to do? What does the number 8 normally signify? Yo, straight gangster, circumcision. Okay, so we can have part of it. Remember, circumcision is about what? Covenant, right. So it's about dedication of a child and extension of a covenant that God promised his people. Remember, Sukkot is a time of regathering. There will be a gathering of sorts. There's more than one gathering where we will be regathered into the land to be with him because you belong to him, because you're in covenant. What else? The number 8. New beginnings, right. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 7 is a number of completion. And then the next week starts. So number 8 becomes a little sign of new beginnings and eternity. Something new is going to pop up. What else? What other examples do I have of something with an 8 in it that's going to help me understand the dynamic that God wants us to look at? Shoni? Right, on Noah's Ark, there were 8 people, right? And remember, Noah's Ark was about a mikvah. It was about God restarting. He baptizes the earth in a sense, and then when he parts the waters and he brings this recreation, 8 people started. So there is a sense that the end of this time of Sukkot is also about looking forward to the recreation. What else? I've got 2 more. One is about kingship. David was the 8th son of Jesse. Right? He was the least thereof, but he was the one who becomes one of the big foreshadows of Christ. From the seed of David, we read it. So, what is it about Sukkot and this eternity and this new creation? Well, there's going to be a king. And he's going to be from the line of Judah. We call him the Lion of Judah, from the seed of David. He is the one who's going to be established on his throne forever. And we understand who he is. David means the beloved. One more. Okay, but that's rabbinic. But yeah, they would get that from that sort of idea. But our Torah portion cycle would have been over, in Messiah's time, it would have been done over 3 years. We're doing it every year. Right? But it gives sort of lens to it. How long were Aaron and his sons consecrated in the entrance of the tabernacle? 7 days. So when did they start? On the 8th day. So when will the high priest step up into his business and take control and establish exactly what that dwelling with man, God with man scenario is going to be? When the high priest has been fully sanctified, set apart, so that when he steps up into his role as high priest and king, new heaven, new earth, new you. Guys, this is about, when we focus on our tabernacles, when you build a little sukkah, you realize that unless some of you are builders, most of them are just rickety little sheds. Or you're sleeping in your tent and you realize how much 4 walls actually protect you. And now you've got these flimsy little canvases that are reminding you that this idea of my little life is actually a temporary thing. Messiah coming to save us, he came to dwell with man. It was for a temporary time. The eternity, the 8th day, the new creation, the thing that is to come. Oh man, that's what we're looking forward to. This is our promise. This is our hope. This is why it's a celebration. This is a time where we look at the culmination of God's appointed times in the 7th month. He doesn't end it with 7 being a number of completion and 6 being the number of men, or 7 being a number of completion and you know, 7 again, as in 7 feasts. He says, no, guys, it doesn't stop here. There is the 8th. You need to be looking forward to the new creation. You need to realize that this was temporary and things are tough right now. Sometimes you go through difficult times. It's temporary. Sometimes you feel secure. It's temporary. Sometimes you deal with illness. It's temporary. To the point where sometimes you deal with death. If you're a believer in Messiah, it's temporary. Don't get fixated on the things that we think we can touch and we can feel and we can say, this is eternal. Nothing we have here is eternal. But through the blood of Christ and through the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, you are. You were made for eternity. Don't ever forget that. Resurrection, life, salvation, dedication, new beginnings, kingship, priesthood. All he wants to do is hang with you in a garden without any sickness and death or anything between you ever and ever again. That's your opportunity and your privilege to grab hold of. Own it. Sukkot is a time of celebration. It's a reason we celebrate for 7 full nights. We should be praising God. We should be rejoicing. We should be fellowshipping. Don't do one night and then forget about it. You get an excuse to have a party that lasts 7 days, guys. I think we can do it justice. God willing, next year, if we all go away, we go away for like 8 or 9 days, and then we make sure the band's there with us, and then we make sure that party lasts for 8 days. Amen. So on that note, well, before I hand it over to band, you guys can come up so long. Does anybody have any questions about Shemini Atzeret or Sukkot? All right, no happy days. We're going to do some praise and worship. The band member speaks. Yes, sir.
Could you explain why it says the Spirit had not yet been given, that there was a Spirit on Moshe 17 years?
All right. So what Billy is asking is, why does it say the Spirit has not yet been given? It's because even though it had been given in small doses to Moshe and Samson and Samuel and those guys, it had not yet been poured out like the river. Okay, it was going to be a much bigger pouring out than he was pointing to Acts 2 and so on. So that the stream would not be 1 or 2 droplets, but a river. Okay? All right, so we're going to sign out a little bit. Band is going to come and set up. Well, we're going to do some praise and worship. Hopefully you will make some noise. And then we'll carry on with Revelations in